Hi, everyone. Kathy Rose here. I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for January 2025. First, let me wish you a very blessed year ahead. Happy New Year. And I invite you to watch the 2025 yearly forecast video that I did with my good friend Pam Gregory. It's only 2 hours long. And it became so long because this is an enormous year ahead of us, astrologically speaking. It's big. It's unlike any other year we've had. So I invite you to watch that to get the bigger picture. What we're going to do in this video is talk specifically about the energy of January and how it's going to affect you and how you can use it for your highest good. So let's start off with the themes for the month. There is a decided and powerful watery energy about January, despite the fact that the sun is in Capricorn and Mercury is in Capricorn. Those are earth signs and they're very practical and grounded and achievement oriented. We have other planets in water signs that are making a very strong statement. So the emotional motivation will propel us forward in January. Our intuitive awareness starts to surge, absolutely. And our creativity could be so very, very, very strong as we go through January. So, despite the fact we're in Capricorn season, we're very watery in January. Let me explain. We start the month off early with Venus entering Pisces on January 2nd. And the photo that's on the left side of the page was from my garden in the house we used to own. I had these giant camellia bushes. And the blooming flower, the pink blooming flower, and the frequency of that matches very much the energy of Venus and Pisces. Beauty, harmony, peace. It's like if you were to remember, bring the awareness to mind of what a beautiful rose smells like. That scent of a rose very much matches the frequency of Venus entering Pisces. So you get the feeling that I'm talking about. It's beauty, it's harmony, it's grace. So from January 2nd to February 4th, Venus will travel through Pisces. In February, Venus will enter Aries, but it will be moving very, very slowly because early in March, Venus begins a retrograde at 10 degrees Aries, and it's going to retrograde back into Pisces in late March. So the reason I'm bringing this up, what begins in January with Venus in Pisces, um, January and early February, then comes back again in late March through late April. So we get the delicious opportunity to experience Venus and Pisces for a longer time than normal. This is social energy infused with spirituality, with love, with creativity, with grace. It's just glorious. Now, if you happen to have planets in your natal chart located anywhere between 24 Pisces and 10 Aries, then this particular Venus cycle is very much going to affect you, and you're going to be receiving the beams of Venus for a long period of time. Um, but if you don't, still just know we have this sensitive, fine weave of energy that's very graceful, it's very delicate, it's very beautiful, especially for the month of January, and then coming back again late March through late April. And I'll be talking about this for several months because we're going to also have Mercury in retrograde around the same degrees as Venus when we get to March, April. And it's quite interesting. Um, so enjoy and look forward to Venus in Pisces. And another way you can think about this is Kuan Yin. This is a painting that my good friend Liza did, and I helped quite a bit with this painting, so we did it together. She did the majority of it for sure. Kuan Yin is the goddess of mercy and compassion, and Venus in Pisces, with Saturn in Pisces also, and Neptune in Pisces. We're really dealing with this dynamic. And Mars in Cancer, which is what I'm going to talk about next. We're dealing with mercy and compassion, a very feminine energy, very graceful, beautiful, sensitive, emotional energy. Before I talk about Mars in Cancer. First, I need to talk about this big aspect that is very important to understand in early January when Mars will still be in Leo and will be opposite Pluto, January 3rd. And the photo that's on screen is my fabulous grandpuppy, a boxer. And he picked up this gigantic stick, and he's carried even bigger sticks than this before. He's wonderful. And he picked this up at the ocean front and carried it all the way home, a few miles. He was so proud of himself. Just, let me carry a big stick. So on screen, you see it says, walk softly and carry a big stick. Mars opposite Pluto, especially Mars in Leo, allows us to explore heroic deeds, heroic energy, empowered heroic energy within ourselves. So that is the most beautiful way you can use that aspect. Now, the next day, Mars is going to retrograde back into Cancer and it's going to change flavor a bit. But be mindful. I'm shooting this video right now at the end of December. And from now until January 3rd, be mindful of this Mars opposite Pluto, Mars and Leo opposite Pluto energy, and connect with your inner hero. Walk with authority and power. Now, you may read on social media Mars opposite Pluto is volatile and negative and violent. Let that go if you can. You're not going to choose to use it in that way. You're going to choose to manifest something different. And that's what we want to focus on. So I look forward to Mars opposite Pluto so I can connect with that kind of empowerment within myself. And I hope you do the same thing. The next day, January 4th, Mars retrogrades back into Cancer, and it's going to stay in Cancer until mid-April. And the picture that's on screen, I don't post many pictures of myself, but this one is near and dear to my heart because I think it symbolizes Mars and Cancer energy so well. When we moved from Denver to Virginia Beach, this was in 1996, and we moved into a new construction house in the middle of June, and it happened to be in a massive heat wave with incredibly high humidity. Well, we moved from Denver, a dry climate, and none of us were prepared for the onslaught of, 95-degree weather and 95% humidity. And when we moved into that house, the construction hadn't been totally complete and they hadn't turned on the power. So I had two toddlers. This is my son sitting on my lap, who was 2 years old, and my daughter, who was 4 years old at the time when we moved. And my hands were full with hot, sweaty children melting down from humidity, with the chaos of a move, with no power. You understand what I'm saying, right? So I'm showing you this picture because there was a beautiful and significant and delicious moment that happened when my son, from being exhausted from the heat and the move and everything else, just needed to cuddle. And he fell asleep on my lap, and I needed it more than he did. And I didn't realize it until it happened. So when he was sitting on me and he fell asleep and he blended into my body blended with him, and he was a hot, sweaty mess. But all I needed to do was to nurture, to cuddle, to blend with him, and to feel that mothering moment. And I was so replenished. I vividly recall just sitting there for as long as I could to just soak it in and replenish, enjoying the love that was passing back and forth. Well, I post this picture because if you get a chance as we go through January to have moments like this, it doesn't mean you have to have a child on your lap comforting them, but in enjoying the energy of comforting somebody else, whether it is hugging your pet or giving your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend a hug, or a family member or a friend, or just sending nurturing energy out to the world, then you will be really using the Mars in Cancer energy well. And it's very replenishing. And this is the point. You want to feel soothed and comforted emotionally as we go through January. Now, I want to remind you that we're in a very special Mars cycle right now. Mars entered Cancer way back in October of 2024, and it doesn't complete this cycle really until early May. During this special Mars cycle where it retrogrades, it goes into early Leo, it retrogrades back into Cancer. The degrees that are going to be highly activated are 17 Cancer through 6 Leo. So if you have planets in your chart in that zone, you get to receive all the special lessons from Mars, which is, are you nourishing yourself? Are you comforting yourself? Are you engaging with your inner heroic energy? Are you using your motivational energy well? And even if you don't have planets in that zone, we all get to learn about this. People who don't use Mars and Cancer well are usually people who don't pay attention to their inner signals of loving and approving of yourself or comforting yourself or giving yourself a hug when you need it. Asking yourself, what would comfort me today? What would soothe me today? So remember, even that act of giving yourself a hug, telling yourself how wonderful you are, comforting you, because you carry that with you all the time. If you don't have a pet to hug or you don't have a spouse to hug, well, give it to yourself. It's so important in January to be aware of this until we get to early May in particular. And all of this will come to a head, a very powerful peak of energy at the full moon in Cancer, January 13th, because the sun in Capricorn opposite the moon in Cancer will be conjunct that Mars in Cancer, which is retrograde. And Venus in Pisces will be close to the conjunction with Saturn. It actually makes the conjunction on January 18th. And we have some delightful and wonderful aspects here. You can see them highlighted in blue. Those are harmonious aspects between the earth signs and the water signs. So there is a delicious moment at this full moon for emotional awareness to ask yourself, are you inflowing equal to outflowing? Are you balanced with your emotions? And I can tell you this, if you are not paying attention to your own personal emotional energy flow, if you let yourself get drained or wiped out and you're not inflowing enough, you're likely to get very, very cranky during this full moon. And if you do get cranky, pay attention, take a deep breath, and immediately start to nurture and soothe and comfort yourself. You may notice people around you who are not in the habit of inflowing and paying attention to their emotional well-being. You may notice them becoming cranky. You don't have to become part of that. You can model what it looks like to be in emotional balance. It's a great time during this full moon to cook, to contact your family, to just be comfortable. It's so wonderful. Then we're going to scoot ahead 2 weeks now and look at the new moon in Aquarius happening at the end of the month, January 29th, 7:36 a.m. Eastern Time. These charts are set for Washington, D.C. Oh, we have another beautiful energy flow. So you see highlighted with the blue aspects on screen, a nice energy flow between the water signs and Uranus in Taurus. And that offers comfort and flow. During this new moon in Aquarius, we have Venus conjunct Neptune conjunct the North Node in Pisces, with Saturn close by. So there is a super powerful energy flow for spirituality, for creativity, for sensitivity, for divine connection, meditation, music, all the higher level frequencies that go beyond logic can be highly activated. But in addition to that, it is a new moon in Aquarius. And at that new moon in Aquarius, we'll have Mercury conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign. So what's fascinating about this new moon is we have the intellectual energy from the air sign, the thinking, the logic, the communication, the community, the humanistic viewpoint highlighted with those four planets in Aquarius, and this beautiful, nourishing, nurturing emotional energy that flows and spiritual energy. So I say during this new moon in Aquarius, understand body, mind, spirit connection can be so glorious. Balance in your body, mind, spirit. The opportunity to tell your body it's healthy, to send healing energy to your organs and your cells and your muscles and your bones, to use your mind, which is the Aquarius energy, and direct it spiritually. There is a gigantic antenna that opens up for your intuition during this time. As long as you're not overly tight with logic, and thinking how, why, when, but you relax and you use your thinking to receive those creative signals and then figure out what to do with it. This is a beautiful new moon in Aquarius, especially for the humanitarian energy, unconditionally loving each other, seeing everybody as equal. Um, it's beautiful. I look forward to this new moon in Aquarius. So my final thoughts for the month. I'm just going to repeat what I've said this entire video. The emotional, spiritual, intuitive, creative energies are so very strong. As we go through January, nurture yourself. Be mindful of your solar plexus, the fourth chakra. I do want to mention here, I have a chakra flush meditation on my YouTube channel. It's a 22-minute long meditation. So it requires some commitment, but flushing out your solar plexus chakra or being aware of it or opening it would be very good. The solar plexus chakra, fourth chakra, is really focusing on emotional security, feeling safe, feeling comforted, having that emotional connection that is healthy and strong. And you want to be mindful of that. You want to breathe into it. Make sure it's very, very healthy. All right. So I'm wishing you a beautiful January with many blessings and much love being sent out to you as we launch the first month of this spectacular year we have ahead of us. You want to do that feeling whole and healed and strong in your body, mind, and spirit. And I look forward to talking to you at the February forecast, where we will discuss more in depth about the Venus and Mercury retrograde cycles coming up and just how amazingly powerful they are. All right, bye for now. See you next month.